Welcome to another edition of Play It Through, and this time around it's Track and Field 2, brought to us by Konami. Now this was Konami's second attempt at making an Olympic-style game on the Nintendo Entertainment System, and this one fares well a lot better than the first, with at least including a few more games that aren't just button mashing, which is really the biggest gripe with all the Olympic games that have ever come out, even up till now. Now this Track and Field game came out 3 years after the previous one, and this one came out in 1988 in Japan, and then 89 in America. But in this game, you can of course do a training mode where you can play any of the events by yourself, solo events. Just pick a random event that you want to try and go ahead at it. You can do a versus mode and two-player mode, which actually includes an event that's not in any of the other modes, which is an arm wrestling event, which really just comes down to who can mash the button faster. And then of course the Olympic mode, where you actually get to pick the country you want to represent, which I'm just going to go ahead and pick USA in this one. And I mean, it really makes no difference who you pick. You're going to be doing the same events and you have the same stats. It doesn't really change anything other than the names of the people that you will have in each event. Now, every event has a different athlete that's in it for each country. You can play as one specific athlete in each different event, and every event is a different athlete. Now, we actually do have a little bit of an intro to the game. As you can see, it is like the plane arriving in the country. And then it actually goes to an Olympic stadium where you get to see like the march of all the different countries that are involved in the Olympics, just like you see at all the opening ceremonies for all the Olympic Games. Which I'm just going to show in its entirety, but it's really just going to be little marching sprites that are going across the bottom. And you're going to see a random country of women walking by, and then it'll be a random country of men walking by, and that will pretty much sum up the entire experience of the March of Countries. There's no specific flag or anything being represented. The crowd is all wearing purple and pink. Interesting color scheme to have, I guess, for all the random people. And even the athletes walking in the parade have purple jackets, even though their sprites are wearing nothing but red. That's just a little weird, I guess. I really don't understand it, but it's not a shock either. After all the waving and after all the parading is done, we actually get to start doing these events. And we start off with fencing, which, yeah, we start off with fencing. Not necessarily the most popular of all the Olympic sports, but it is an Olympic sport nonetheless, and here we go with my W. Snyder versus L. Lagarde of Great Britain. And in this one, you have the two buttons represent different moves, and you can actually hold the up or down buttons, or just, no arrows at all to hit high, medium, and low. So it becomes a little bit of a competition. Whoever lands an actual hit on their opponent gets a point, and then whoever gets to 5 points first, which you obviously can see from the counters at the bottom, as I've gone up really quickly, up 3 points. This is actually one of the funner events to do, just because it doesn't involve mashing the A or B buttons over and over and over and over again until you win the event. So I actually enjoy doing some actual gameplay. As I've now already won. Now the thing is, they do have harder difficulties, because I'm just going to be showing you each event once, but you actually do play the events over and over again until you finally actually win the Olympic medals. It's kind of like just the preliminary round, so I guess like the easiest of all, the competition that's going to be available, as we are now getting ready for the triple jump event, which I warned before, and I will say again, I am going to be using the turbo button, and especially in any of the events in this game in particular where you have to mash the button. I tried over and over again. I can do it on a Nintendo pad once in a while, get a decent score. But even then, it's not worth the effort, and I end up just tiring, and then I don't want to play anymore. I mean, isn't like the whole point so I want to continue playing? And yeah, so I'm not even going to worry about tiring myself out quite early. I'll show you right now. Here, I'm going to try to button mash it here. And as you can see, I've got pretty decent speed, but I'm nowhere near what the turbo button can get. And I think I just messed up my jumps, yeah. So I'm not going to get anywhere near the actual thing. That was me also messing up the angles. Because not only do you have to worry about button mashing, you also have to worry about the angles of your jumps. Timing it correctly to try to get the most length out of each and every one of the little jumps. So that's the actual challenging gameplay part. Is now I'm just gonna blow, as you saw that that jump isn't even possible. No one, I don't think, can jump like that. Maybe I don't really know. They could, I guess. I really don't even know if someone can jump like that. It just seems a little weird. They actually can get a little bit higher you know, you can go way off, I think even off screen if you arc the angle. Now you're not going to be able to go much farther than that, but you can literally go like straight up in the air off screen, which is very interesting to see. Now, I don't know what was up with that guy's face. That my swimmer here looks a little awkward. Here's another one where I'm going to be button mashing. What the whole thing in this one is you start off underwater, then you have to come up for air, obviously, to start swimming normally, but sometimes I'm pressing the buttons here, and they don't quite do what I want. Now, you're going to go back underwater, of course, at the end to turn around, which is always fun, and now I'm out of breath again, and you see my stamina meter build right back up. But if I just holding the button, mashing, instead of just mashing, just holding in the turbo button, you can see I'm speedy enough that I can make it to the end, I beat my opponent, and more importantly, I qualify having a 48-second score, which the qualification was a 50. I had to have a below a 50-second score. After every 3 events, it's like the end of the day, end of the preliminary day, or whatever. Because not every event's done in one day. You end up getting a password if you qualify. You have to qualify in all 3 events in order to continue. Now, in between these days, you have 2 bonus exhibition events you can do. Hang gliding, which is pretty annoying, and this gunfighting one, which you can either pick the zapper, or you can go ahead and use the controller, and unfortunately I don't have the zapper hooked up to my computer, so I'm just gonna go ahead and use the controller. The thing about it is, it's like a weird, it kind of reminds me of the, of the Dick Tracy game on the Genesis. Had a little bit of this in there, as well as, Wild Gunman and stuff like that, common zapper games that were on the NES, except it's like really poorly done. I mean, like the guy's popping out of the hood, or the trunk of the car, like, it has like that Lethal Enforcer syndrome of like, how can one car hold so many people? Like this blue guy will not just stop popping out of the side. Like, it's just badly done, not a whole lot of variety to it. It seems like it was just thrown together from another game that they were doing. They're like, oh, here's a tech demo of something we did. Let's throw it in there as a little mini game inside the track and field game. I mean, it's just weird. I'm just gonna end up letting it kill me after a while, because, I mean, I could continue, but you've pretty much now seen every enemy, and it just gets boring after like a minute or so of doing this. And since this is a exhibition event, and not an actual Olympic event, who knew that shooting gangsters wasn't a real Olympic event? Yet, I guess. That would be interesting. Maybe. I'm not really sure what the point of throwing this in there, other than, like I said, it being a random tech demo. They're just like, yeah, let's throw it in there as a mini game, and track and field too. That goes along with that, the aspects of the Olympics. Anyway, after a while, just give up, shoot me, kill me, whatever, and then it goes back to the menu. I can pick hang gliding, but you know what? I'll save hang gliding for later. You get to choose the same 2 events after each and every day, and you have, several days to deal with it. So it's time for the high diving event, which is actually one of the events I actually really do enjoy watching in the Olympics every time they come on. And for this one, you actually pick a random skill, which is basically your starting jump, and then you hold left or right, and then press the button either to twirl forward or twirl backwards. And pretty much what your goal is to let go of your spin, or your flip, in time so that you land perfectly in the water, similar to what I just was able to do there. As you can see, my score was about the same, though, as my first one. Now, hopefully, I can get a better one. You have 4 jumps to get the 6.0, which I already have, but let's see what I can do on this one. There we go. That should have been that was decent. And somehow that was a 9.4. I thought my previous one was a little bit better than that one, but apparently not. The judges thought differently. And my final one here. And that was like a belly flop. That probably would have killed somebody. And I get a 7.5 for it. So, hey, not bad, I guess. For nearly probably like killing my athlete there. So high diving is done, and now we move on to clay pigeon shooting. And M. Simpson is our representative for the U.S. in this event. And this is a pretty decent event, a lot different than the one in track and field 1. You do have to call for them to, shoot the clay pigeon out. And then after you press the button, you move the target left or right in order to get to the angle where the pigeon will be coming out of. It'll be to your left or your right, and sometimes you don't even have to move. You can actually somehow get it just by sitting still. you have 2 shots you can use. So if you miss it on the first shot, you do have another bullet left in order to try and hit that same clay pigeon again. Usually if it's too far to the left or right, I'll wait till it starts to go into the background, and then as it's falling down in the background, then I take my shot at it. Now you have to get 32 of them, and you have 40 chances to get that. So you have to get 32 of 40. And on my first round,